Why don't you start, Beth?
Okay, Vika. All right, I read the study and I thought it was very good. And I thank you for updating the things that we asked you to do. I especially liked the charts with the different towns, their populations and what they have for sizes. Um, some of the comments that I might have on this, and I'm again thinking of citizens who are going to be not thunderstruck because we're throwing out these projects now that are millions of dollars. So we're getting a taste of it, but still we need to be on our A game to make them realize what's necessary. On page 3 of 5, you mentioned the existing building does not meet current energy code requirements. The roof has very little blown-in insulation, and the SMU block walls have little to no insulation. And I'm not saying this because I don't think it needs it, but I think we need to reflect the fact that about 10 years ago, we had a program with Efficiency of Maine, and we had over $51,000 given to the island, and they did some schoolwork with it, and they did the firehouse. And I'd much rather we have a study somewhere, and I wish we could get our hands on it. I happen to have looked up with Efficiency of Maine of the different towns and how much money they got, and it checks off some of the things they did. And I know that in the ceiling or the attic, there was 12 inches of insulation. Now, again, I'm not saying that we don't need more or a better type, but that was done. We had new windows, new doors. We also had something done with the blocks. So so my purpose of saying this is, I would much rather have you say, rather than little or no, I'd rather have you say, we realize that Shebig participated in a program with Efficiency of Maine and had at that time the newest and greatest insulation process done. But in this day, it's not to code, or it's not efficient now.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you? Because there could be firemen, and there is firemen that have already looked at this, and they spent some time doing this, and they agree that it's not where it should be now, but we don't want, we want the fact that, yes, we have participated in programs.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we could just say that. I think it does. I think I stuck my head up there. I thought it did have the 12 inches, Curtis. I mean, that's not very little. So it had, a fair amount. I think it's the block walls that are more difficult to, I don't know if they had vermiculite in them or what. They're harder to, insulate later.
And I think they may. That might have been the word that was used. I hope to help find this study. So for future that we have that in our packets, or that we know where we were.
Do you know about when that was, Beth? Like what year that?
Well, it was set around 10 years ago. And in this checklist,
2012,
air sealing building envelope. I don't know if that was just the school or that they had it, but of course, insulation, LED lighting. They also had a hot water heater. What's the fancy way of saying the hot water that automatically?
On demand.
On demand. And I don't think that that's hooked up.
No.
But I think it's up there.
And
I think the reason it wasn't hooked up was because it was felt that there wasn't a need. So they got it and then they didn't hook it up.
Yeah, I don't think we saw any LED lights, did we? So it might have been just more of the school. I think there was, as I'm trying to recall, I think we got some photos up there, but I think there was a fair amount of insulation in at the bottom core of the roof rafters. But I would doubt you would be able to do much to the block wall except put, some rigid insulation, fur out the inside, and do something like that. So, but I guess, it's not really the main point of it all. I think really the main point is the, essential facilities, structural seismic standards that we'd have to meet. If we kept that building as fire department and did enough remodeling in it, which we would, then bring in the block walls don't have enough rebar in them. So, and that's a really difficult process to seismically shore up the exterior walls and the trusses in the building. So, whether the insulation's great or not is more of a sideshow than kind of a main point. So I think, we might even just kind of tone it down a little bit.
And that is all I'm asking is that, at one point it was done to meet the needs of what was then. So it's a simple thing, but what I like, Andy, is when you go into a slight detail about in building, something for the fire department about the rebar and the structure, that couple of sentences, it means a lot to the need. And you say a lot that it doesn't meet code. And I wonder if you can reference, is there like a chart, a graph, or a standard of code?
Yeah. So it's the IBC code, and there's a chapter that talks about essential facilities, which are police stations, fire stations, and hospitals. And the IBC, the risk category goes up, and so seismically, they have to be stronger than your average building, is basically kind of what it says. So, we run into this almost every time that we do a remodel, is that, they might even meet a current code. So it might meet the codes for the town hall, but it doesn't meet the code for an essential facility. So, and I don't want to get too down on the building, since we're recommending that you keep it as your town hall. And Vika's going to be like, yeah, great. It's terrible building and you're stuffing me back into it. So it's not, so we shouldn't get too down on the building. I think it's just more that it's okay for a town hall. Might not be great, but it works for that. It's just not going to work for a police or fire station, any kind of essential facility.
And can you mention the fact that, we've got the big report and Bo, the selectmen have the folder and they know what you folks have done with fire and rescue and police stations. Can you mention the fact that in your experience of this, you know what the codes need to be, and you would have to follow that. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but you would have to follow that based on all fire departments or all police departments have to meet the same code. They all have. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. If you go in and do a significant amount of remodeling on your building, then you're going to have to bring it up to the code for IBC. It's the International Building Code. And because it's a essential facility, then we'll have to seismically strengthen the building, make sure it doesn't fall down in a hurricane or an earthquake, that type of thing. There's supposed to be the last building standing would be police and fire, which and you're not supposed to, like I noticed, the Naples Fire Department under 6 feet of water or 3 feet of water. you know, where you're supposed to not put them in a flood zone, and which may be impossible in Naples, you know, unless they built it on a pyramid mound. But you know, that's, you know, that's a good example of, you know, why they want to make sure that these buildings are, you know, still standing and operational, because that's what you're going to need the first responders in a big, you know, kind of in a big weather event, which there will be more and more of. So
It just a second, because Vika, can you please send Ralph he's forgotten, where's the link? Can you get him the information that you gave all of us?
Yeah.
And just send it to him, please. So everything that you've just said is very inviting. It makes it ring true. It's a story. Your story about the fire that they had, where was it that nobody showed up?
oh, Baldwin. Yeah.
Baldwin?
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't mentioned in this proposal the other need of what's so important about having this meet the codes and also have, say, a bunk room and things like that,
Right.
because we have an aging fire and rescue department.
Yeah.
And we may have to at some point have per diems. So everything that I have said to you now is not expected to be in 15 paragraphs. If you could just kind of expound a little bit on the code, part,
Yeah.
and the other need that you know, what we foresee as a town with our aging force.
Okay. So I thought you did have essential facility in here, Curtis. I'm having a hard time.
Under initial, same page 3 of 5, under initial thoughts
Okay.
is where essential facility falls in.
Okay.
So
I mean,
I'd like to add how important this is to the town, because an essential building meeting the codes that you've described, Andy, that as an island, there's nowhere else to go other than on top of the rock. And if something bad happens, there's definitely no way you're getting off, right? So the other places that we have in town to meet that standard are wood, and some of them are not on full foundations.
Yeah.
So the building that we have is the fire station. Should some form of emergency come up where multiple people need to to take cover, from whatever is upon them.
Yeah.
And certainly,
yeah.
So I think that the emphasis on that aspect of the building code, rather than you don't have enough insulation, I think that's much more important. Like, we all know it's an old building. We just upgraded the school. It has more insulation. But the importance of the building as an essential building is I think very important to underline. In fact, I would actually call it out in the recommendations. That is the risk to the community, that we do not have an essential building.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think you're right on target. So and the same. So we'll talk also. So I think in that paragraph, and even though you've got it down here, I think, we might even talk, speak more about it in that first kind of existing building paragraph on page 3, Curtis, and kind of talk, at least prelude to the, essential facility piece, and then, and just kind of tone down the insulation. Like you said, everybody knows that it's an old building.
Well, if I may say, you have an aging population that all I'm asking is that you just say, I realize that you people have gone out, with efficiency in Maine and upgraded at a time, say 10 years ago, well, now it's time to do it again, or something to that effect. Don't
Yeah.
drag it out. I'm not making that point. I'm
Yep.
just saying it was $51,000 that was done to these buildings, and it just simply needs to be, not, there's very little. So
I got it.
I won't go
Okay.
there again.
Okay. No, yeah, we can do that. And then I think talking in the recommendations, maybe we can hit on the programming again, just a little bit more, the need for bunk rooms these days, and that you're gonna be having more per diems and more paid staff that are gonna need a place to stay. And certainly, or the sheriff, if you have a place for them. And I think the other thing, that we might talk about is, like you said, we have a training room in here, but that, on a small island can also, serve as a shelter, for folks. So if you do get a big hurricane, you're in the strongest building, in town. People can come to the fire station and bunk out in the training room and have a safe place to be in. So, and we often, make them, kind of a command center, as well. So for that public works and if the police are there, or and the fire department can, kind of coordinate any kind of rescue or response to, a big storm, something like that.
Yeah, the balance here is not that we're making an impenetrable fortress or a castle, right? But to demonstrate that building the right building provides the flexibility, given an event, planned or unplanned, do we have the flexibility to address the community as a whole, in the uniqueness of our community being on an island?
Yeah. Good points. All right.
The last thing I have, and then maybe someone else can come up with, is on page 5 of 5. Option A and option B have the same last thing. Town hall notes inflation did it. Very last, after the bullets on option A, it says town hall can take over existing spaces currently, and renovations can be done over time. And then option B says town hall can take over existing spaces currently, and renovations could be done over time. Isn't that supposed to be different?
I think so.
Well, technically in both scenarios, town hall can take over those existing spaces that are currently occupied by like the fire chief's office and the break room and things like that. Because in both options, technically any of the work done for the town hall side can be phased on both of the projects, regardless on which one. So that's kind of why I had left it like that. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's just a note for both options can have, instead of having them separated like that. Maybe there's a better way of making it more clear than like that.
I think you actually just said it, Curtis. I mean, the purpose of the words is that as soon as the new aspect of the fire is done, start incrementally working on the town hall. You don't have to wait until everything is complete. You just do what makes sense. I think if you just speak to it that way, that's okay.
Okay.
I kind of thought when I was looking at it, though, that if we chose option B, or if we chose option A rather, that it would be less likely that you could take over the existing spaces and renovations. You've got to wait till the fire department has got their bay up and everything. I just thought that it sounded too much the same, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can just word it like more like once once phasing of the fire station is complete on option A. You know, once phasing of fire station is complete, then town hall can take over the existing space. And then on the other one, town hall can already take over existing. Yeah.
Thank you, Curtis. That
Yeah.
to me is more, explains it more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the only, I guess I had one more thing, was the fact about, in your coding, is it necessary to have in the codes, are you required now in any of the new facilities such, with the fire departments, that you must have a decon room?
Yes.
I think so yeah, if it's I mean, it's obviously definitely good practice. I'm not sure if it's actually, I gotta take a look at it, if it's in, you know, a code per se. There's so many. I know, I don't think it's in the IBC, but
Not an
I don't think
IBC.
yeah, I think every new fire station, you know, certainly for the safety, you know, and welfare of the firefighters, you really should have a
Have you put
decontamination.
If you put one in all the ones that you guys have worked
Every
on?
single one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you know, they're just finding, I think a lot of it's just on the research, you know, they're finding that, you know, there's just so many toxins in a fire, or even, you know, nowadays, you know, you have so much, you know, exposure, COVID, you know, there'll be more pandemics that, you know, when you get back, to be able to, you know, disinfect and clean up your equipment, and to do that before you ever come into the living and administrative areas. So, and even the bays themselves with, you know, apparatus in them, or, you know, the diesel, even though we're going to put, you know, a catchment system in to try to keep the diesel fumes out, you know, we consider it still kind of a dirty space. And we make sure that the air is always, you know, flowing from the clean to the dirty, so you're not sucking dirty air into the building. And then we try to put the decon area between that, so if you get off a piece of equipment, you can clean up before you come in. It's, you know, certainly good practice. It's I think your responsibility to your firefighters, that, you know, you try to provide them with a safe work environment. And so I'll have to look. I've never really thought if it was, I'm not sure it's exactly in a code though.
Well,
There might be
The only
some
thing I
code
think
out
of is
there.
health and safety. If it's a
Yeah.
health.
Could,
Bev, Beth, if you're laying it out in anticipation of the question from the Board of Selectmen, I think it's a good thing. You know, we just need to be prepared to answer the question, and the right answer for the volunteer or for the paid is that we're providing an environment where they get to be healthy. And it's probably the little critters that are as important as the carcinogenic, you know, toxins that are in everything.
Yeah.
And I would also argue that the liability on the town for not having that will far outweigh the cost of putting one in.
yeah.
And I
Oh.
have to say that, everything that I've asked, you have good answers, and it makes me comfortable, and I can't thank you enough. I voted for Port City because I felt you had the experience, and I also felt that you'd stand true with what was necessary, as well as any of the safety and health needs as we're talking about. I did not want to have an architect who is building this with a quote, "Whatever you want us to do, we'll do it." And so this is all I have.
Well,
and I thank
we
you.
will, and we will in the end build whatever you want us, but we're not gonna leave you uninformed. Well, you know, as long as it, you know, meets code and so on. But you know, but we just want to make sure you guys can make informed decisions based on our experience. So I'll go to Neil Courtney, he's our municipal fire consultant, and ask him, you know, if there's actually a code
that we
know,
could fall back on it.
for that, or I'm sure there's something, you know, in the, you know,
OSHA.
an FPA or OSHA or something that we can look
Well,
at, but he's about it
everything
as,
you said has made sense, and I thank you.
okay. I try to be
That's all
fleet
I
on
have.
my feet. Good.
So who wants to go next?
I think you covered a lot of it. The only thing that I just want to add to that is, I think, whether it's from the selectmen or depends on who's in the audience, I think we should expect inevitably to hear comment along the lines of, well, it's worked the way it is now, so why bother? And I think that's where all of these elements of what we've been talking about kind of come together, that if we upgrade anything, it has to be done to the current code. If, you know,
Well,
we can be more efficient, or because we are losing volunteers, we're gonna have to pay people, you know, it's, so it seems like you're gonna be able to come a full circle and explain all that, because I think that question or a form of that question is gonna come up. And I think, you know, it's what I've heard with the town office, you know, it's, we'll do this temporary until we get settled, and we've been a town for 15 years, and guess what? Nothing's done. And so I think that's going to be an important task that will definitely be.
yeah, I'd say to that, Beacon, that it's not going to work soon. You know, as soon as, you know, you move to a more paid staff, if you don't provide bunk rooms, you know, you're you know, probably not gonna, you know, get firefighters to man your, and you know, to man your station, you know, or people to be, you might have that call and nobody comes, you know, if Ralph's not on the island, you know, at that moment, or so I think, you know, I think you've been fortunate, and, you know, and you know, what if the facility that you had, and we had a major, you know, Ian hurricane that, you know, swung up north and, you know, hit you guys on the island, and the building went down, you know, so I think you guys are doing a good job in being, you know, trying to prepare for what, you know, could happen.
I can actually give you a situation that happened this summer here. At the boatyard, the fire alarms went off, and it was due to steam from a shower that one of the people that was renting a mooring, I guess, had taken a shower too long or any. The fire department showed up, and the youngest, I think at that time, was 65,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
oldest was 90, and two other people showed up on mopeds that had disabilities.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't, I don't want to, you know, get into that, but we need to, that's what made me really start thinking that what Ralph was saying was, you know, he wasn't overblowing this, that, you know, we're going to reach the point where we're going to have per diem people. So, yeah,
Or paid,
Well, we need to be
people.
appealing. We can't just be, you know, we're no longer, you know, people don't look at this as a community, oh, we're off an island. It's inconvenient for a lot of people. And so there's got to be the convenience aspect, that if they come out here, they get the same services that they're going to get elsewhere.
and we don't have the volunteer attitude that we had 25 years ago, because I can show you pictures of the fire department, and, you know, there was 50 people there, and it's just not anymore. So thank you. And yeah, I'm done. I keep saying that, but I am. Go ahead. So Vika, are you set? Are you all set with what you need to say? Okay, so Chris, why don't you tell us how you really feel?
Well, you've already gotten it, and I think, you know, the bottom line is just, you know, lay some emphasis on why a new building or a building to code that serves the community, not the fossil fuel bill. And I'm very much in the fossil fuel bill guy. The reason there's solar on the island is largely because of me and another person. So I'm not trying to discount that. On personal view, I'm trying to emphasize something that probably matters a lot more. The only other comment I had, and this is just really beautiful in the way it's laid out, is actually on page 5 of 5 on 6-7. In the apparatus bays 2 deep, you have engine 4, engine 8, engine 9, ambulances, and 4-wheeler. You need to add a tanker.
Okay.
And Chief, I would envision someday potentially a vessel that would be aquatic bound, that would be aquatic in nature, that might need storage. So I'll just throw that one out there. But what you have looks great. It makes sense. It's logical. And quite frankly, you know, on a personal note, when I look at Plan B, we end up with a town hall or town offices and town hall that really serves the community, because you've asked for 3,200 square feet and we'd end up with 44, which means you can really do something amazing with that space, or again, serve the community in ways that we may not anticipate, but might be really important at the time.
Okay.
I'm done.
Bo?
Ralph had his hand up. I'm pretty much everything that's been said is pretty much what I'm thinking too. So I didn't see anything really that to comment on besides what you guys already said.
What about Ralph? I don't even see him. I'm sorry, Bo. You see him? Okay.
Yeah, he's sitting there.
Okay.
I thought she was ignoring you, Ralph.
Go for it, Ralph.
I'll just say I'm sorry for joining late. Been kind of a hectic week, but everything I've heard so far sounds really good. The other side of it, I guess, is this isn't anything new that the selectmen and the people of the town haven't heard. I think what we have in our favor now is the firm that we've hired is pretty much reiterating what the Board of Selectmen in the town has heard over the last, however many years, since we became a town. So we're not really bringing much new other than the idea of a new building instead of rehabbing the one we got, but it all makes sense, codes and everything. So I think when this is all presented, I think it will take a little while for everybody to digest, because it is a big chunk of money, but it passed the straight face test, and I think it will be well received.
I still think we ought to consider more bunk rooms. Would be my only recommendation to what we put in there. I think you're gonna, especially being on an island. I mean, again, like we're working in Castine right now, and for somebody to get housing up there is like really, really tough. It's too expensive. So they're looking at it. Well, they have volunteers, but they're still looking, from Maine Maritime, but they're, looking at it like anytime you can provide some sort of housing for like a, workforce and volunteers, it might be bunk rooms for somebody else coming, doing other town activities on the island. So I think it's wise to, put up some, dorm rooms kind of, in the fire station. And I think they'll serve you well in the future. So I'd even add a few more, was my only comment.
To that, just quickly, is something that my wife brought up. So when we have a company come over and service the fire trucks every year in the ambulance, they do maintenance. Finding a place for them to stay, it's usually just one person. He's quite quite a few times has stayed at my house. And I don't mind that, but I think that's a lot to ask of anybody to just have somebody come in that's working on equipment. So I think you're right. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
You're gonna be fire chief forever though, right? But you're gonna be the fire chief forever? Oh,
Yeah, no, that's
so there's
not,
no problem.
I'll take that one. Yeah, he's gonna be fire chief forever. Thanks, chief.
So the plan is that on October 19th, you're going to come out and give a presentation. I'm going to introduce you and speak very little, I hope, in a paragraph, as I'll get some help from people. And I don't know how many questions will be asked. I know that the other night, talking about the stone pier and phasing this, will there be a question asked, what's the next step with what you're doing? Are you prepared to say what that step will be?
A question to us,
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
So I mean, so I think the process is for, if people at this Board of Selectmen, like option B, or that seems to be, the way you guys as the town would like us to proceed, that we would, take that into more detail, over there, and we would go over and, take a look at the, topography, dig a few holes. It's probably, 14 inches of organic on rock, on ledge, but just, kind of see, come up with a more detailed design, try to make that as efficient as possible, come up with the cost estimate, like 3D model of it. So you guys can present to the town exactly what it is you're proposing them to vote for and exactly how much it's going to be to build. So that's really our next mission on this. If they want to, we kind of gave you 2 ways to go, and we'd like to keep everybody involved, not get too far ahead of the plan, without your input. So this is kind of our first, meeting back to say, here's just the first baby step. Do you like where we're going? And so if so, we'll take it to the next step and come back to you.
And that's all that's all in what we've got in our budget.
Yep. Right.
So we're good there, Bo?
I just wanted to comment about you doing some exploratory digging across the, where we're proposing for option B. I know there was some test pits done already previously because they were questioning about making that a gravel pit. So I know there's some bony gravel there.
Okay.
There's small pockets here and there of some sand and sandy gravel. So you have to get quite a bit before you get to clay anything.
Okay.
Not saying there might not be, but most of it's going to be gravel for, a good distance.
Okay.
And is our these drawings, where are these from? Is this accurate in what we own, what the town has? Where did these come from, the accuracy of the lots themselves, the lot line?
They come off the tax map of town of Chablis, but
That's not accurate.
right. However accurate is the tax map, without it being actually surveyed, that would be the only way, is have a professional survey done for each of the lot lines. But to get the point across in terms of the lot lines, we're fairly close, give or take a little bit on it. But as soon as you pursue one of the options, we get a survey to lay out exactly where we can build and
Do
all
we
that.
have a survey on the land across the street anyway, or the survey? Because the lot lines on the firehouse, I've been told that that back lot line is almost up to what used to be Meredith's house, so do we must have surveys. I mean, do you have, maybe you have to do another one, I don't know. Is that normal, like you should do that? Go ahead, Bo.
I know there was a survey done from across the road because there was some land that got exchanged and stuff like that a year or 2 years ago. I can't remember the exact date. So I know there was surveys done for that. So
Who could we, not that we might have to, I'm not saying that we might not do it, but would that be helpful to find that survey?
Yeah, I mean, I can take a survey like that and lay it out exactly as it sits in AutoCAD, and then we can accurately plot it on our side.
But that would not have to be done for this.
No, not for this, right?
But just, would it be helpful for you folks?
Yeah, a survey never hurts. It's good to have.
So, I mean, I'd say on option B, I mean, the parcel seems to be quite large, and we're just
Yeah.
taking a very small corner of it. So I don't think that, even if the other lines were off significantly, we're pretty sure that you own to the corner on both sides. So I don't think it's quite as important then. I mean, certainly if we took option A, then we would probably want to get more definitive, making sure the building would indeed fit. We wouldn't want to go through and do a floor plan of the building and find out we were, 8 feet into the setback. For right now, for the purposes now, just at the level of feasibility we're at, we're just saying it seems like that could be a direction to go and that it could fit. But for option B, which seems like where everybody'd like to proceed, survey'd be great, never hurts, but even if we didn't, I'd feel pretty confident that we're, we won't find any problems, in that, at least on the ownership of the land.
Thank you. Has Bill got anything? I don't see Bill, but he got any questions? And I don't see Vika. I'm not sure.
She's still here.
Are you on
We're all
gallery?
here.
Beth, are you viewing us on gallery?
Top right corner of your screen.
Yes.
There's
So-
a little
So we should be all in our little squares, like
under view.
I just don't have, I'm sorry, but I just don't have a big, I'm on a big Mac, but you are not taking up the whole space. But is Bill there? Can anybody tell me?
I don't see Bill.
No, Bill.
Bill. Who?
Bill, we don't have a Bill.
You mean Tim?
You mean Tim?
We have a
Yes,
Tim.
Chris?
Oh yeah, Tim's here. Oh,
Tim's here. He's right in the middle of my screen.
Old Tim. Okay.
Okay, Tim,
you know-
sorry I called you Bill. Do you have any questions?
Well, but first, before I answer that, my middle name is William, so you're kind of close.
Okay.
But no, I really don't have any questions. I'm good on the site. Thank you.
All right. So do we have anything more we need to talk about? Do you have any questions, Bo?
I just wanted to add, was it Carol White last night brought up, there's a new grant, is it, Vika? Is it a grant for the energy efficient grant? They threw it in our
Talking
plate.
about how energy efficiency is going through, a process where they're giving out a lot of grant money to improve. And so she had commented towards the fact that maybe the facilities committee can look into it to see if this building could be somehow improved or updated.
I mean, we've gone through efficiency main with the number of buildings. Depends on whether they have money, and the program that's up at that specific time and the money that's there. So we've gotten checks. I think checks up to like 25,000, something like that for, to make it, to build the building that we would build anyway. We don't build buildings that aren't energy efficient. So it's just a little more paperwork. But it depends on the day and time, whether there's money and the program's funded or not.
I think the important question too with this is, if you've used that before, if it is something that you don't think you can do at this time, say the electrical, with everything we've talked about that, and then adding something on, just say it couldn't be done. Sometimes do these grants allow you to get that money to use in a building in the future or no? You know that?
It's usually a rebate after you get
After
the
you
building complete, then you get a rebate check back. I mean, we are working on a number of projects that have some ARPA money. I think that's gone through the county a lot. So we're doing the Washington County Sheriff's Office. They got $5.5 million or $6 million for the new sheriff's facility. Franklin County, I think they got something $3.5, $4 million for just building, which is usually unheard of. That usually they'll give you a grant or money for a new fire truck, piece of apparatus. It's very rare that you get money for bricks and mortar, but I have seen it, and I think it's so there's money in the state right now. I think I understand it's been filtering through the counties. So it might be something to check. Rumford we're doing their fire station, got like a million, I think, from Susan Collins earmark. So it might be good. If anybody's a friend of Susan Collins, I'd give her a call. She might have some money for you. She's been giving it out a lot.
Well, maybe we definitely need to kind of figure that out, because if Aroostook County can get 6 million and they aren't surrounded by water, maybe we've got a good chance of getting some money. So Vika, maybe you and I could sit down with Carol at some point and we can report back. It doesn't have to be done before the meeting, of course. So is that it? Would that be good, Bo? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, there was some ideas thrown like heat pumps and stuff like that, but with the electrical being inadequate to add anything else to it, it wouldn't be really energy efficient anyway. So they just threw it to us to try to give them some kind of idea, or to give us a heads up saying, hey, there's some money out there.
Well, we need to go after a new building. So here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question, or more of kind of a clarification. So the last time we talked, there was, the idea of improving and adding things to this particular report to determine that we, whether we need a structural engineer or not. Does the board at this point feel comfortable with what they've heard to make the assumption that the community isn't going to come back and say that you don't have that? Or do we still feel like there are questions there?
So I'll take a stab. I'd say it's based on like our professional judgment right now, that we feel that the building is not going to meet the essential facility standards. If you wanted to proceed, or if the community wanted to proceed, we definitely bring in, I don't know to what degree, but I can tell you if it's an unreinforced block, that's going to be a problem. I just know that from experience that won't have a good seismic rating. So I could pretty much guarantee you that there'll be some sort of structural need, right out of the gates. If you stayed in that building, there'll be some sort of structural modifications necessary. To what magnitude, I don't know. But you know, so it's really the significance that a structural engineer would tell us, you know, is it $100,000? Is it, you know, $2 million? You know, what is it to bring the building up to code? But I can almost guarantee you there's some sort of modifications necessary.
I guess, I think Vika brings up a good point, because I know there's going to be people ask that. How much would it take just to make that building? And by what you've told us so far, it sounds like that it's just not a feasible thing to do. But if we had a rough estimate, so that when that question's asked, because I'm pretty sure it will be, that we could throw that at them so that we can put that to rest, because I think that's gonna be a big question.
Yeah, I mean, we'd really need to get the structural. So, you know, the way we work is, you know, we're trying to be cognizant of your dollars. We're kind of, even though we have a you know, an estimate, we got dollars out for you. You know, we try not to, if we don't think we need to have the structural engineer now, then we're trying to, you know, not pay him and not spend your money. I guess what our thought was, it's not just the structure, that's one piece of it, but that there's other compelling reasons that seem to make option B better. So do we want to spend the money on a structural engineer to put one more nail in that coffin, or are we, you know, I think if people bring it up, and honestly, I couldn't even take a guess at it. You know, I just, then I would be fibbing, you know, if I told you it was 400,000, I don't know. So we'd have to, you know, so you guys would have to invest some money, you know, within, I'm sure it's within the dollar values, you know, that we've negotiated with you to do it. But, you know, do you really need to? I'm just trying to spend your money on things, information that you really need to know.
So to add to that, would you have a general idea of how much it would cost to put an elevator in and have the extra stairs and things like that? Because I think that's
yes.
something that
Yeah.
would be going into the current building.
Yeah.
And if it's, you know, $200,000, then that's money that is, if it's, this building's not being upgraded to go up, would potentially go elsewhere. So if you don't have
Right.
those numbers,
that we have, that's easy.
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
are the kind of numbers that you can potentially use. And I think that, you know, like Ralph said, I think those questions are going to come up. And I'm not sure if at the end, the selectmen are going to feel more comfortable or not, still wanting a structural engineer or not, or whether it's hearing things like, do you want to put $300,000 into having stairs, having an elevator, or do you want to put that money towards something else? So
That's about $300,000. I can tell you that one.
360, right about.
Wow.
For 2 stairs and elevator.
I thought I was exaggerating, but
I have
I
to,
think that answers my question. I think that answer will satisfy the majority of people.
Okay. I mean, so, you know,
We'd rather spend the money, your professional opinion. It's a waste of money basically for us at this point to have a structural engineer come in and tell us what we already know, and it's going to cost more. I think you explained it very well. I think that works.
I think I agree with what Ralph said, and I was the one that wanted the structural engineer, not for me, but for the public.
Mhm.
So, but when I read this report and the fact that you put it together and have this, a real sense of what the codes are needed and how your professionalism and what, as you said it, I started to feel very comfortable. Now I even feel more comfortable with the 2 stair wells that would be needed and the elevator and what the cost of that is. So I think, you know, I don't know, maybe we should see what the board feels like after we get done with your presentation, if they feel, I don't
Right.
want us to go forward and have the board turn around as we're getting all warm and comfortable with what we feel is right. And all of a sudden the board says, well, we really feel it's prudent for the community to have a structural engineer. So maybe.
And that's just why we're going to see them right now. So
Yep.
we're not, it's no good to come to them with foregone conclusions. It's better to come to them with like, here's what we've uncovered so far. This is where we think it's going to go. But if you have, other reasons to want to look at option A or to build on it, then we'll do more digging on that. But if they look at this and say, yeah, hands down option B, then we would have just wasted $2,500 on or a couple, maybe not 1,500 on a structural engineer to come over and and tell us what we kind of already know. Just so they're going to tell us in more detail. If we need to reinforce the cords on the trusses, and I've run into a lot of it. I mean, there's new code, you can't have differential loading, snow loads. So a lot of times older trusses, they might meet the current code and just in general for snow loading, but for snow drifting, they also now there's higher standards that they've got to meet in case all that snow blew off onto the left side. Will it still, support the loads? So it's, they can tell us that, but if we're not going to go that direction, do we really need to know it? I don't know. But the select board can say, yeah, we want to know that. Great, we'll go tell you. We'll tell you.
Bo, do you have any feeling on that, please? What you think they'll do?
As far as for me, I don't really think we need to do an engineering and need an engineer to go do that, but that's only my thought. So, Mark might not, knowing that Mark probably had a good hand in building that. So he probably knows, stuff.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
He was young. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, he's had a hand with remodeling and doing some stuff in it.
Yeah,
So he knows some of the structure. I'm not saying he knows all of it, but so just as a meeting perspective for me, how much time will you need as far as a presentation or something?
I think like 30 minutes or 30, 40 minutes at most, probably 30. Well, I don't think, I don't like to beat things to death. I like to just kind of get it out there and let them ask questions. I think, it's pretty straightforward what what we're telling you. And so I think 30 plus or minus minutes will be fine.
So just you're probably looking at another half hour worth of questions.
Yeah. Maybe 20 minutes even. I
We're
think,
running into an hour, which is fine. I'm just trying to get you on the 8 o'clock boat. So,
Well, and I
you
think
come
that's
on.
a good way to gauge it too, Bo, is if we're planning to have them be on the 8 o'clock boat, because that's how we staggered a lot of the Stone Pier meetings. And it was, if there was a set time limit, sometimes
So-
that boat is convenient excuse, like, okay, we have to be done by 8 or
Yeah.
10 minutes of 8. So I think that, like you said, if you're going to have about, 20 minutes or so of presentations, then there's that flexibility up to 30 to 40 minutes of questions, and then we're shooting you out of there, and people can email the questions if they need to, which very often they don't. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is just step one. I think we're just, presenting here are the fundamental questions. Do you add on? Do you go across the street? I mean, that's really all we're asking. And here's the reasons why we think you ought to go to option B. And, so we've kind of limited it. It shouldn't be, we're not asking a whole bunch of different questions right now, just kind of basic, which direction, do we go? So I can certainly do it in 20 minutes too. I'll just.
Yeah, I'm just thinking time management. That's all.
Yeah,
As far
yep,
as-
no, I agree. And I definitely want to get over on that, back on that 8 to 8 something vote.
Yeah.
So if we have to come earlier, we'll come earlier.
Right.
I just,
Yeah.
don't want to get, I don't even know if you have a 10 o'clock vote, but I'd rather, or whatever, but.
We have a
We'll
nine-
get you back on the
9:15.
8.
Yeah.
9:15, yeah, guess it wouldn't be the end of the world, but anyway.
I think you might not have as many, it'll be interesting because I don't foresee as many questions there as maybe future questions. I think even though they're gonna get the packet,
Mhm.
I think the public will be mulling this over and, this is the way it is. So it will be very interesting to see how this all pans out. But I thank you, and maybe we're over preparing or thinking
All right.
too much on this, but I thank you for understanding that.
You see Chris, Beth?
No, I don't.
Okay, he's
And
got his
I-
hand up. I kind of thought you didn't.
I haven't, yes, somebody else has got to do this because
Beth, I'm gonna come over there and we're gonna do some remedial Zoom meetings with you.
I wish I could take a picture and show you because
I know, I believe it. Well, yeah, I can
I
help
mean-
you with that too. A
Okay.
quick question, Andy and Curtis. We were talking about $300,000 or $360,000 for a stairs and an elevator. There's also the recurring cost of maintenance of elevator, which is much more exaggerated on an island. But just from a curiosity perspective, in the state of Maine, as you're working with different municipalities, are you noticing a trend where municipalities are like, keep me the heck away of multi-story, let's do it all on the ground level? Or is there a reason to go up and down, or does it not matter?
It's usually site specific. I mean, if we have to go up, like we have to, that's why we have it in option 1. We can't fit all that program onto the existing site. So that's kind of driving it most of the time. But in general, we'll try to leave a facility. My rule of thumb is like, 15,000 square feet. Just if you got plenty of lot, if you're 15,000 or less, I try to put it on one floor. If you get up above that, then sometimes it's more economical to go a second floor versus a bigger footprint, and a lot of site costs and things like that. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. That I'd start looking at a second floor if your building's 20, over 15,000. In this case, it's constrained by the site on option 1, and that's why we have to go up. And that's why it's not that great a choice, because we don't have enough space to really work it. The other thing I don't like about option 1 is separating the last bay. It's not a really good practice to have 3 bays on one side and or 4 bays on one side and 1 on the other. You really want to kind of it gives you more flexibility. You don't want everybody running over to bay 1 and it's like, oh no, it's on the other side, of the facility. So, like I said, honestly, I thought that was exactly how we were going to go, was, option 1. And then I started to rethink it, as we, took a look across the street. And I just thought, well, 4,000 is too much for town hall, we're wasting space, but if we don't do anything to it, we're not really, wasting the space. I mean, you could just have a big, kids playroom in the old bays or something. You
We
could
could actually have a town hall. We could actually have a
Yeah,
town
yeah.
hall and host town meetings in it. Yeah.
So,
Well, I think it's efficient to have room for expansion because we're a new town and documents are just going to keep growing. We're just going to keep
Yeah.
collecting more stuff. It's easy now because we only, have a little bit, but it's just going to keep growing. So I think that it's smart that we could end up with more space than less space.
and when we started to think about like, Vika could just, start utilizing the rooms, move desks over into the space that's already there. And, it seemed to be kind of started to become more apparent that, building the fire station across the street was, a smarter idea, that you can just build that station. And, immediately when they move, she can, breathe and expand out into, moving desks around, probably kind of how you've done it all along. Just, moving
Some-
back into the labyrinth.
Well, don't get
Uh,
into that part because somebody enjoyed getting used desks and they just kept piling them up in there for them when maybe it would have been nice to have a couple workstations. So
Yeah,
it's really needs some new life in it, the way it's set up, and I'm sure it will be.
yeah. Yeah, I don't mean to cheat you out of your, nice town hall, Vika, but, anyway.
Oh, okay. Can everybody, does anybody see any hand raising or anything, or are we set? And
We're done.
all right. Well, thank you very much, and
Okay.
I feel very comfortable with Curtis and your presentation and what you put together. And if people have any concerns, please contact Mika, and we can get them to Andy and CC the rest of the committee. So get them to Curtis or Andy, and I'm sure they'll answer it. So
Yeah, Curtis, we'll talk tomorrow. He'll get you, the revisions that we've talked about today, get those to Vika, you can pass them out. And if there's, anything else or something we forgot, just get back to us.
sounds
All right.
good.
Perfect.
All right,
guys.
thank you very much. And then I'll, when it gets closer to you guys coming, we'll figure out the details of votes,
Perfect.
pick up and stuff like that. So
Okay.
thank you. Have a good night,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.